Well, today is the 4th of July, and for those listening at home, of course, it's a week later. For those that are here, thank you guys for coming. It is Independence Day, and it is the birthday of America. So I was thinking this morning, as I always do, what am I going to talk about? And it's odd because it always happens to me in the shower. I don't know what it is about me in the shower, but that's just another story. But I was thinking, well, what does it mean to be independent? And do we really appreciate Independence Day? And if you don't appreciate being independent, then it's like casting pearl before swine. You won't know what it is, and you just stomp it into the mud like the rest of the stuff they throw in the pen with you if you're a pig. And so my thought was today that we should talk about what does Independence Day and what does being independent mean to us? And you guys can think about it. And I thought to myself, well, my dad taught me to be an independent thinker. And the beautiful thing about America is we have the freedoms of our Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all these beautiful freedoms that we have to be able to be independent in this world today and live prosperously. But the sad thing is we are really not independent because most of us are imprisoned in our own mind. Stuff that's been downloaded into us. It has been a part of us for so long that all of a sudden one day, maybe in our older age, as it has been for me and many of us, you wake up and you go, wait a minute, I'm not truly independent because I don't have free, independent thought. I listen to the monkey brain, which is really not me. I'm just kind of, I was going to say innocent bystander, but I'm just a bystander. I'm not even innocent because I allow it to happen. And so as I'm waking up in my life, I think, well, these are the things that I have to express and talk about because I have a feeling that it's something that we all go through. But being an independent thinker, it's maybe not as easy as it sounds. You can say to yourself, well, I'm an independent thinker. But have you ever thought about that? The meditation helps you to become a clear-thinking, self-motivating individual, okay? That, to me, is freedom. That's what America is about, is having the freedom to be a clear-thinking, self-motivating individual. And as I'm becoming that, finally in my 60s, I felt like I was that my whole life. I really did. I felt like I was, this clear-thinking, self-motivating individual. And I was self-motivating. I would get myself out of bed, and I would go to work, and I'm still an early riser and an early-to-bed guy. And I was a pretty clear-thinking guy, but I was fooled by so many things. Because one day when you wake up from the matrix of life, and you wake up and go, oh my God, have I ever really even had an original thought? Or have I just been grabbing thoughts out of the ether of others that are, putting shiny things in front of me, that are tempting me with this, that, or the other? For me, it would be cool tennis shoes, cool cars, cool boats, cool houses, little things to big things. And I would chase after those things like a lure, just like a trout in the pond. Somebody throws a shiny lure in there. Oh, look at that. Get it, get it, get it. But if the trout ever thought about it and thought, well, that's a little odd. That fish came out of the sky, and all of a sudden it landed right next to me, and I better think about that just for a moment. I better hesitate and wait a second, because that doesn't look real. Something wrong with that. See, the problem is we go through life without thinking, and it's called being thoughtless. So are we really independent? No, not really. We are dependent. We're dependent on our friends. We're dependent on things. We're dependent on feeling good, eating food that is making us feel good and fat, as one gentleman says. But so I think for Independence Day, we should all examine, are we really independent? Because we are free in America to do as we please. And the sad part about it is the do as we please part is you can do all the wrong things you want. And nobody will stop you. Most nobody will stop you. And I say that kind of weird like that because if you're doing the right thing, you don't have a lot of people rushing to, say, hey, wow, that looks cool. That's really great. You're doing a great job. But also the same way, if you're doing the wrong thing, you don't have a lot of people come rushing to you. They just watch. They're like, what the hell's that guy doing? Look at him. He's destroying his whole family. I have a friend right now. He's destroying his whole family. And I keep saying to him, you're destroying your whole family. I want to help wake him up. Am I the only one? Is maybe his parents and me the only one that's literally saying what needs to be said? I heard Chuck say something one day, one of our board of directors, Chuck Williams. He said something to the effect of, and you can say it again if you want, which was, my job is to make people feel uncomfortable, or sometimes it's your job to make people feel uncomfortable. And Chuck and I get into it every now and then. It's kind of fun, It's honestly, it is kind of fun because if you don't have somebody challenge you, think about this. If you were playing ping pong against a 4-year-old, there's no challenge there at all. But when you play ping pong against Bruce Lee,
the challenge with the 4-year-old is to try to make them enjoy the game.
It's a whole different right. It's actually bridling yourself from being a giant ego. But when your opponent is Bruce Lee, what does Bruce Lee say? I don't fear the man that practices 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that practices one kick 1,000 times. I actually think he said it was 10,000 times. And so when you have a worthy opponent, somebody that will challenge you and say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Or ask questions, I'm not sure about that. Can we have a conversation? And then you're like, how dare you question me? The pride, you know what I'm saying? And this is what we do with our kids. This is what teachers do with children in school. Happened to me. Did it happen to anybody else in here? Where you thought something doesn't seem right and you say, teacher, this doesn't sound right. Oh, you go sit down. Bad boy, bad girl. Sit in that corner. Go outside and wait outside the door for 10 minutes. Right on the wall. I will not ask questions out of whatever. So it's interesting that to be a clear-thinking, self-motivating individual, you first of all have to know who you are. You have to kind of understand this matrix of life. And if you don't understand it, well, then you're caught up in it. All the people in the Matrix movie, if you ever watch that, we always use that because it's a great example. They're living their lives, everything's fine. And then the people from the conscious world matrix appear and they see everything as it truly is. And they know that these other people are asleep. They know it. They understand it. They don't go around trying to wake up every single person. Have you ever seen that? You see a person that perhaps starts meditating and they start waking up and they want to start shaking everybody. Wake up! And we're all in the matrix. Wake up! It's like then they look insane. They look like a whirling dervish. And it's kind of sad. But what's more important is to be an independent human being and an independent thinker and a self-motivating, clear-thinking person. You just have to start living it. You have to start doing it. And you have to not try and convince anybody of anything because guess what? That's all in vain. But as you start to live this life of consciousness, of awakeness, not woke, but awake, you start to affect people in a positive way because they see something about you. What's going on with you? Sally, Fred, Jesse, whatever. And you go, well, nothing's wrong. Everything's right. I'm starting to see things more clearly. And who doesn't want to see things more clearly in their life? We all do. We all want to understand all the things that we've thought about, wondered about, asked about, prayed about for all the years of our lives. And one day, all of a sudden, things start to become clear. If you are in that conscious state, and that conscious state is what the meditation exercise is about. And I've heard so many people, I read all the comments on the social media, not every single one of them, because there's a lot of them on all the different formats that we have. But I try my best to read as many as I can. But sometimes it'll be, I listened to your father back in the 70s and I started meditating and my life got better and then I forgot about it. And 30, 40 years later, I went looking for your dad and I found him and I started listening again. I started meditating and I realized how much I screwed up my life. I don't know why I stopped. Well, there you go. We all do. We get comfortable. The pain goes away. Remember what I said about the saying that was in the gym that I went to, no pain, no gain. And whenever it was, you're pushing the weights and you'd get to that place where you're like, I just can't. And the spotter, they call him, that's supposed to help you put the bar back on the rack when you're laying down trying to push the weight. They're like, come on, no pain, no gain, come on. I remember this. I remember thinking to myself, I can do it. And I push one more push and I get it. Okay? No pain, no gain. So as we go through our lives, what is the one thing that helps us to understand we're going the wrong way? Pain. Pain. I posted something on my Alan Masters Facebook page the other day that Harvard had done a study using rats, and they would drop them into a bucket of water. Did you guys see this by any chance? They would drop them in a bucket of water, and the average time that the rat would live before it would just give up was 15 minutes swimming in a bucket of water. And then they decided, well, let's watch and see what happens if we, right at like almost 15 minutes, we save the rat, pull it out, let it rest, let it get dried off, let it have a little bite to eat, and then drop it back in the water again. And here it is. Second time. Wouldn't you think that it would be like, oh my gosh, I was about to give up before. Here I am again. I'll just give up. What do you think the average time was that these rats would swim? And I'll tell you, 60 hours. 60 hours. Isn't it interesting that the moment before you die, somebody saves you, and then you get put in the same situation again, and now you realize you have a chance that somebody may save you. Now that's a rat. Even a rat knows that maybe if I just hold on, somebody or something will save me. So as we have these horrible times in our lives, woe is me. Why do I even have a life? Why am I alive? I'm just going to end it all. And then somebody comes along and says, hey, wait a minute. What are you doing? Wake up, shake you a little bit, because sometimes you got to shake your friends like, what are you doing? Stop it. And you look at them like, what? Well, you're just going down the tubes here. And all of a sudden you wake up a little bit and you're like, boy, that's crazy. I was on a roller coaster ride to hell quickly. My son came the other day to visit for the 4th of July weekend. And he says, Dad, he said, I had an interesting thing happen. I was on this movie set because he's working kind of in Hollywood right now. And the guy that he was working for, that was second only to the person in charge of the film, and I can't tell you what film it was because I don't know, but it was kind of important. There were some big stars and such. The guy that was second in charge was in charge of my son, Jonathan. And something happened to where he had been arguing with his mother and his sister and his girlfriend and all these people in his life. And he was on the movie set. And then the guy that was the main guy barked at him. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And he just fell apart. He says, why is everybody so mean? Why is everybody so mean? And my son saw this and it was like, wow, something's going on. Because you see when people break. You see when people break. So since Jonathan had to report to this guy as he was doing his things, the guy was like shaking and crying, and so he kept on saying, hey, listen, don't worry about it, things will be all right. Just, people bark at people for no reason sometimes. It may not even be you. But at the end of the night, after everything was done, Jonathan stayed late to talk to the guy, and he talked to him about what was going on in his life. And the guy was on the roller coaster ride to hell. He was contemplating suicide that night. And Jonathan didn't know it, but Jonathan had a feeling. So he stayed and they talked until like 2 o'clock in the morning. And at the end of the evening, at the end of their conversations, and he taught him the 7-minute meditation and gave him kind of the link and put it on his phone and made sure he had it. The young man, I think he was 35, he said to Jonathan, you had no idea. He said, tonight I was going to commit suicide and you saved my life. And so sometimes when you get that premonition that you are sent to do a job, you better roll with it, because somebody else, you are plucking them out of that bucket of water that they're about to give up. And then guess what? Now, just like the rat knew, God may send somebody. You'll try harder next time. You won't allow yourself to give up so easy, and you'll recognize the fact that God loves you and he doesn't want you to give up so easily. Obviously, you must be important because the devil wants you and God wants you. Isn't that interesting? The devil wants you and God wants you. So Jonathan says to me, he says, the guy had to go in and get a CAT scan because he also had some medical things he was dealing with. He broke his collarbone or some hogwash. And he had to get a CAT scan, and he had to be inside this machine for an hour. And he called Jonathan. He says, I got to tell you, he says, my whole life is changing because of your grandpa's meditation. He says, I meditated. He goes, I was so full of angst and fear to be inside of this machine for an hour for this CAT scan thing they were doing, or whatever amount of time it was. It was quite a long time because they have to watch the organs working and all. And he says, I did the meditation the whole time. And he said it was like time passed by like nothing. I was calm. I came out the other side and I was like, why was I so afraid? What was there? We have nothing to fear but fear itself, because that fear that is like an entity wants us. It wants to pull us down that roller coaster ride into hell. But if you're a clear thinking, self-motivating, independent individual, and you have a relationship with your Father in heaven by being obedient to his commandments that he gave thousands of years ago, guess what? He's looking after you. He's watching after you. There's a bubble of protection. So America, here we are. It's your birthday, America. It's Independence Day. And what happens if we are not obedient to the laws of our Father, that he gave us these 10 simple commandments that are really pretty simple? If we're not obedient, we start doing things wrong, guess what? We fall outside of his protection. And America has not been very obedient, so it's fallen outside of God's protection. Now, America, I believe, is blessed by God, but not if we choose to be disobedient. Just like if my children choose to be disobedient to me, they get the wrath of their father. Just like I got the wrath of my father many times because I wasn't always obedient and I did a bunch of dumb things and he come down on me like a ton of bricks. But what happens is it's different with God. God allows things to happen to us to find ourselves in that bucket of water. And then sometimes he saves us. And we know people that have perished far too early, and those are the times that he didn't. And I was talking to one person, and I said, well, 2 of this person's children have perished at a young age in their 30s, early 30s, mid to early 30s. And I said, where do you suppose your children are? And she says, my children are in purgatory. And I said, purgatory? And so, of course, the Catholic people, they know right what that is.
When I was a kid, I was shooting for purgatory.
Because you didn't think
I
you'd
wouldn't make it right away.
That's
Most
fun.
of us kids, we figured we'll make it to purgatory. At least that, we won't go to hell anyway.
I don't know. Do you think that now that you're kind of on this other side of it?
What is it? He's asking what
Yeah,
is
so
it?
what is it, Chuck?
Oh, well, for the Catholics, purgatory was when you die and you've somehow been good enough to be saved, but you got a lot of baggage. You got to go into purgatory and get it burned off. But it's not for eternity. See, hell is for eternity. But purgatory was a place you went where your intent was pure enough that you could go to heaven, but you had to be purified. And I always thought, not when I was a kid, I didn't think of it. When I got older, I thought, that is a weird idea. But the more I see about life, the more I think there's a grain of truth in that story. Because I think that the whole point of life is for you to be at a point where you're willing to see reality as it's revealed to you, moment by moment, with no excuses. Painful or not, you're willing to see it as it is. And if you're not willing to do that, if you haven't done that all the way, you haven't seen all that you need to see, but now your end is here, it may be you need a place to go where you get to see all you need to see. But you're willing to see. You're willing to see. Because the guy who goes to hell is not willing to see. He's got an excuse for everything. He's got an explanation for everything. He's got a reason for everything. That's why he's going to hell. And God wants those who realize that's not the way to go, and somehow in them they realize that their mind is giving them excuses and answers all the time, and these are lies. And evil and all kinds of crazy people are trying to give you lies to believe. And at first you reject the lie and rebel against it. And you have to see that's not right either. And seeing the lie helplessly is where he wants you to be. So you may be at a point where you're starting to see that, but you need to, because heaven, I believe heaven is where it's all reality. There's no such thing as an excuse. You can't reach and grab it. Oh, I've had enough. No, there are no excuses. Heaven is pure reality in the presence of the energy that created everything. And some people, their soul can't take it yet. They're on the way, but they can't take it. So there may be a place we inhabit for a short time. A holding place where
Earth.
Well, no, Earth is our holding place. You're right, but I don't know if it's true or not. But I said that's kind of neat if there was a place where you got started late. But because you got to realize that if your soul is all of a sudden goes from your excuse world into a place where there are no such thing as excuses, they don't exist, they don't work. The light just comes in. There's no filtering it out. A lot of souls will just shrivel in pure light, the light of the Father. No excuses, no lies, no things separating you from the truth of His presence. It's not a word thing. It's not a philosophy thing. It's a presence.
A lot of these people who have had out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences, they have that life review where there's no judgment, but it's just pure reality. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe it, But I wanted to mention also like Bruce Lee, because you mentioned Bruce Lee, and he actually also said, don't think, feel. And I think that was close. But it's like, because the whole excuses that Chuck was talking about, that's all in the thinking. It's like we can pull thinking anytime we want, but the intuitiveness, that's not pulled by our will. It's like I'm seeing another way to live, but it's not with words in my head. So it's almost like I don't know, but that comes out when it's expressed in written form or sharing. But otherwise, it's not going on, but it's there. You know what I mean? But it's not thinking. It's another way. I spoke to Roy once, and I didn't realize how much I was in my intellect at the time, but I said, the whole world is living off the intellect, most of the world. And he says, well, that's all they have. Because you have either the intuitiveness or you have the intellect.
So my dad wrote a book, Finding God in Physics, Einstein's Missing Relative. But kind of like what our last gentleman said, there's an interesting thing, the same way if you think versus obey. See, he says feel, right, is what you said. Bruce Lee said what now?
Don't think, feel, but it's something other than feel. But he had the idea, I believe, yeah.
So two different worlds. One is a world of thought, I think, inside of this universe that we get to live in. And the other one is the spirit world, the spirit. And to me, the way I would express it is, one is thought, and I watch the thought, because to me, the thought is the monkey brain. The other one is the spirit, which is the wordless word my father talks about. And it is the spirit, it is the soul. And if the soul is properly in alignment with its creator, then the creator puts his love in your heart in the form of knowing, and you obey. And you can't even hardly put words on it sometimes. You just know you have to do this. You know you have to say no. You know you have to say yes, whether you want to or not. It's an interesting thing. So what Bruce Lee, I think, was talking about when he says don't think, feel, what he means is, I believe, is more the word, he said feel, and maybe it's obey the inner voice.
See, intuit. It's another type of living.
It's a very interesting thing. And what Chuck was saying there about purgatory, I think we all make our own heaven or hell on earth. And you create your own purgatory, because I believe that purgatory is for excuse makers. If there's such a thing, and you just can't stop making excuses, then you're creating your own purgatory right here, this hell on earth you create for yourself.
What I've seen is I don't create excuses, I embrace excuses. So it doesn't come from me, it comes from someone else or something else.
That's a very good point. Everybody was shaking their heads and agreeing. Because again, the monkey brain offers the excuse.
The spirit behind the excuse to get you to justify your existence, your ego existence.
You got it, brother. So I look at this whole situation with life and the life that each one of us are living and have lived, and it's the same thing as Adam. It's the same exact thing. Man, let's just, because I'm a man, the only way I can describe it, is faced with a situation, a temptation to tell the truth or to tell a lie, to listen to his inner heart, which loves the truth and wants to be obedient and loving to his Father in heaven who created him. Or the other side of that is the dark side, the lower nature, which offers the excuse, and you embrace that excuse over and over and over and over again. And I think my dad even says it in one of the long form meditations, which is, if you fail at a situation, you react, you get angry. Don't get angry at the person that did something wrong. Be thankful that that person gives you another opportunity to rise above the anger, the judgment, the resentment, whatever it may be. So when things go wrong and somebody's rude to you, somebody's mean to you, somebody takes advantage of you, if you get mad at that person and you don't react to it correctly and you just lash out in anger, you've actually jumped on the back of the dark side. Versus looking at it and going, oh, now here's an opportunity. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to try to deal with this in the right way. And so a person said to me the other day, they had a decision to make, and they said they got up early and they got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and started praying. They started praying and they wanted to really be in the right place. And they prayed for hours about it. And I thought to myself, if you're in the conscious place where the meditation helps you to get, you can just simply say, Lord, be with me. I have a tough situation, and continue walking. Don't even drop a step. Continue moving forward to the situation. That little thought, if you're conscious of it, it's all it takes. To me, it's all it takes is just a consciousness of, Father, I don't know. I need your help here, and I'm going to go straight into it.
My experience has been that he doesn't tell you which way to go. He tells you where not to go. And what happens is, with me, I get to a point where I get this feeling, whatever it is in my body someplace, and it means don't go in that direction. And I've listened to it sometimes and have not listened to it. And when I have not listened to it, it has been an unpleasant experience and something that you're sorry that you didn't listen to. You're sorry that you had those experiences, and you want to say, I'm going to listen next time.
That happens to me if I have poor food combination. I still am a little kid at heart. You know, it's funny. I used to watch my dad with all his British jokes. And I thought to myself, he's doing an exorcism, then he'll turn around and tell a joke. It's like, what? And I get it. Your mind is offering you all kinds of interesting little thoughts, and some of them are funny, some of them are wicked. It's a melting pot of the world, our minds. And it's interesting which one you choose to ride.
One of the things that I noticed that your dad did, the reason I think your dad did that, this is my opinion, that he didn't want people to be in a trance and be caught up in the emotion of what was going on. And when you cause people to laugh, that breaks that state of mind.
It's a very good point, and I agree 100%. I think that we're all far too hard on ourselves, which would be judgment, right? We judge ourselves. We're just way too hard on ourselves. I came in the other day and my wife ate all the chocolate ice cream, and oh my God, I was so mad. And then I was washing my hands and I put my big belly up onto the bar there, and and it got all wet, and I looked down at my shirt and my big old belly, and I thought, you didn't need any ice cream anyway. And then I said to her, I said, do me a favor. I said, will you buy a bigger bucket of ice cream next time? We had this funny conversation. But, it's like life is funny. I laugh at myself all the time, mostly in the shower, but I do laugh at myself all the time. And it's interesting. We were talking earlier about kind of this purgatory thing, and I don't know. I don't think there's like a place where we get to hang out while we finish our insanity, purification spot. Because there's a part of me that does not want me to believe that God came right to me and said, how do you plead? There's a part of me that wants to say, well, that's just a thing. Just a thing that happened, that thing, as Biden would say. But I will tell you that I knew at that moment I was being faced with my Creator. And the power was so intense, but it wasn't.
I just want to say, when you have that knowing, it can't be taken away from you. You know it. That was your knowing, no matter, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's true, but the devil is there to make doubt. And what are we doubting? Our Creator in heaven. When God said to me, and now you are forgiven, and the world lifted off of my shoulders. I mean, I've heard other people say I felt like I could float. I felt like I was going to float because it was a spiritual thing, but I felt weightless. And I remember when I woke up, I felt free. I felt completely free. And so even though to this very day, the devil wants me to doubt it. The devil wants me he speaks into my head from the dark lair that he is in. That was not God. You know what I'm saying? But I realize that every time temptation comes to me now, I look at it and it seems very foreign to me. Now, have I fallen since? Of course I've been tempted. I just told the ice cream story. But we get tempted by the little things, and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like a snowball effect. You slowly but surely forget yourself. You forget your Creator. You fall prey to the dark side, and he pays you. The dividend that he pays you is pleasure. Pleasure, 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 until all of a sudden you start dying from all this pleasure. We start having disease and all these things because we're not living right. But I know that as I see temptation more and more and more as an outside entity, as not me, even though Gentleman Bruce said something that was very, very important, those thoughts are not yours. The thoughts of doing wrong things, being tempted, saying wrong things, whatever it is, they're really not yours. They're offered to you on a plate. And you either consume them or you consume body of Christ, in essence. Which what I want to do is I want to be nourished. It's a better way of putting it. But I know the Catholics know what I'm talking about when I say consume body of Christ. I want to be nourished by my Father in heaven, by Jesus, my Savior. I want to be nourished, the nourishment of my soul. The body, somehow our bodies, our souls are kind of trapped by this body that has, the ability to feel good, to taste good things, to smell good aromas, to look pretty, to adorn ourselves. It's a gigantic distraction. And what do we forget about? Our soul. And what sacrifices are we willing to make to save our own soul from this prison in the mind, you might say, this prison inside of this body? None. We have problems with eating. We have problems with thinking. We have problems with sex. We have problems with being lazy. And I could go on for an hour with problems, making excuses. I mean, look at it all. I think at the end of the day, the most valuable thing I've learned in the last majority of my life till I was a tiny little child is the ability to be of service to stop being selfish. And instead of when somebody says, hey, can I borrow this or can I use that? Was it in my own children? No, go get your own. I worked hard to get that, whatever it is. So my son comes over, who's visiting right now, and he says, hey, Dad. I go, yeah? He goes, what are you doing today? I said, I need to work around here and get ready for, the family's coming over. The place is all dirty, clean up. And I said, why don't you go down to the river and go jet skiing? And I have a really nice brand new jet ski that's 20 years old that I bought in a crate. And so I love finding little things like that. Somebody bought it and never used it. It's 1995. So I'm very particular with this little artifact of mine. And I've only ridden it once myself. And I said, why don't you take my jet ski and go with your buddies and go jet skiing? And he goes, what? I was just going to ask that, which is an impossible ask for me. My kids don't ask to use my stuff because it's always no, go get your own. Guess what? If I let them have and use all my nice things, they will do what they've done with all my nice things, which is lose my tools and damage my stuff. And, they were little kids, but he's 25 years old now. And I thought to myself, I can't put that jet ski in the box when they lower me down into the grave. What good is it if I have this wonderful toy and nobody's playing with it? So he couldn't believe it. It was like, what happened to Dad? He's crazy. It's really funny. And my wife the other day, she goes, I need to go get a bale of hay. I go, here, take my new Jeep. I have a Jeep truck. She goes, what? This is my brand new car. And I'm like, what good is it? You can't put that Jeep in the grave with me. I guess they could dig a bigger hole. But I realize I have been so selfish with my stuff. And I look around and I'm a daggone hoarder. I have stuff. I have more tools than for 10 people. What good is it? So I'm trying to be kind and thoughtful and not be a selfish individual and stop hoarding stuff to myself to where I feel better about myself because it's mine. I own it. No, it actually owned me. And so I'm freeing myself. Now, I bought another brand new car just to sell. Brand new. I have not driven it. It sits in that garage, and I'm getting ready to sell it. I'm waiting for just the right time to put it on the market. But there's a side of me that says, go ahead, drive it. Drive it, it's yours. Look at that car. Yeah, I can hear it in my head. That thing is awesome. Everybody will love you if they see you driving that car. Right? I mean, that's how it is, right? It's the strangest thing. Whatever, it's a car, it's the clothes you wear, the jewelry that you put on your body. That devil is talking to you. And I'm like, nope. I bought that car as an investment. I'm going to sell that car. And heck, I want to drive it. But I'm smart enough to know that if I drive it, it'll take away from the value of it. So I'm just looking at everything. And one of the guys that's in here knows I'm a car guy. That's just my side hustle, fun thing I do. And he says, and I went to his house, and he's got all these old antique cars, and he's like, I got a car I want to donate to the foundation as a project. Thinking to himself, maybe some young kid will get interested in cars if he comes and helps work on this, 1923 model T, A, B, C, T, just checking. But we hoarders, it's hard for us to give up these things because they make us feel good. And it's an interesting thing. How much sacrifice will we make over the things that we have and money that we have? I have a nephew that needs help right now, and I've been helping him. And I don't want to help him to the point that he doesn't help himself. I don't want to enable him to do the wrong things that he had been doing to get in the situation he's in. But you know what? Something inside of me is finally freeing me from all of this conscious, I'm going to call it hoarding, because, clothing, it's as little as clothing and as big as, you name it, a house, multiple houses, multiple cars, all these. But I'm learning how to give of myself. I'm learning how to do that. And I do believe that if you look back in the beginning of time with humanity, they used to offer up an offering, right? They would they would give their fatted calf, right? And I don't really understand or know a lot of that history, but I understand that it's a conscious understanding that we need to be thankful for the life that we've been giving to our Creator. And how do we do that? We can do it by helping each other. We can do it by being loving and understanding of those in need and being able to see it and not say, too bad, serves you right. How many times have we said that? Too bad, serves you right. You live that life, now you get what you deserve. But what about the person that's drowning and you reach out and help them and then they say to you, thank you, you saved my life. Could you also have said from the kitchen window, oh, look at that, I think he's drowning, too bad, serves him right. You know what I mean? So there's a dark side of you that can do that too, by the way, that can allow people to perish, to live this horrible life without saying, friend, what are you doing? You're destroying your life. I want you to know, I can see you destroying your life. And maybe you don't think people can see that, but you are destroying your life and your children's lives and their children's lives. Just like when you are bringing up your son, ladies and gentlemen, or daughter, you are also bringing up their child, your grandchild, and so on and so forth. Because whatever you put into that kid, whatever you download into them, good or bad, will play itself out again with them, with their children. And it's very interesting. So I'm looking at the right and the wrong of the things that were done with me in my life. And my dad, for the most part, was an excellent dad. But I am faced with things that I don't know what my dad would do because I didn't have those things in my life. Cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone when I was growing up. We had a phone with a cord on it. And all of a sudden, kids are 24/7 on these cell phones. So how do I deal with that? I never had my dad yell at me or grab my phone and throw it on the ground and stomp on it. I don't have any example of any of these things. So now I have to go, all right, well, I'm just going to watch this for a minute and I'm going to ask God to show me what to do here because I don't know. It comes back to I don't know. And if you're willing to say, I don't know, Lord, show me, and then move on with your life, guess what? All of a sudden, you'll get this knowing, and you'll know what you're supposed to do. And the energy that you do it with will also be better, because otherwise it's the willful energy. You get led to do the right thing, is what he says. Yes, it is natural. So, on this day of independence, I am thankful because I am finally becoming independent from the dark side. Not that this dark creature, he, will always be there trying to pull me down. Always. But for whatever reason, I'm having this awakening to my own self. I feel free, and I'm thankful to live here in the United States, where we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
It seems like this country is really going the wrong way, and you'd like to do something, but it's kind of like fighting against an invisible wall. The way you can see that things aren't right. There's a story about this little boy. He's down in the surf, and he finds these starfish, and he picks up the starfish and he throws them back out. The tide's going out, and this man comes along and he says, "What are you doing?" And he said, well, tide's going out. These starfish are going to die if I don't throw them on. He said, you know how long this beach is and you know how many starfish there are? He said, yeah, what difference do you think this is going to make? And the kid didn't say anything. He just reached down and grabbed another starfish and threw it out and said, made a difference to that one.
That's true. So maybe we pass the mic around to our little group here and ask each one of you, what does independence mean and what does Independence Day mean to you? Chuck, you're first, buddy.
I was listening to somebody list what happened just before our independence in the 1760s and 1770s, all the different steps that led to our declaring our independence of England. And part of it is that we wanted the right to live our lives peacefully in our own way. And our forefathers knew the curse of mankind and that they devised this complex nation with a constitution trying to put our own ambitions and selfishness and meanness against itself. So they hoped that they could save this country they were creating for 100 years maybe by figuring out a system that will keep us fighting each other and as a result try to stay on this course of freedom for all. We may be coming to the end of that, but it was a marvelous thing they did. And I'm 74 years old, so I was raised in the 50s. America was a different place in the 50s, and it's not that place anymore. And we've changed a lot. And those who've come in these later years, they don't know what America used to be like. And it had flaws before, but there was something about this idea of being free to be yourself. And even though I lived in a town that was segregated, and they had, certain people had to ride in the back of the bus and other people had to ride in the front of the bus, and I didn't know any better because I was a kid and I went in the back of the bus because I saw an empty seat and sat down, and people in the back of the bus said, "You can't be in the back of the bus. You got to get up to the front of the bus." And I said, "But I like it right here." So we had that going on, but there was other things about America that I liked. So,
Well, I see independence as a spiritual state of mind. That this country is kind of a present to the people who were spiritually centered at the time, so that they had a government that kind of allowed them that freedom to be independent.
I don't think people take time to understand the circumstances under which we were subjected to by a king. And they always had that background by divine right, And that was their excuse for being jerks, because they were really awful. Anyway, from far away, they didn't give the Americans enough time to think for themselves, and they liked that. If you keep them ignorant and well protected for a while, as long as we have our blessings, everything's going to be okay. But then the hand of the kingly hand is also a mailed fist, and they felt that too. They were threatened. And if anybody's vaguely familiar with what they would try to do to us, the taxations and all that, without our representation, we all take it for granted because we have it now. But now we're starting to understand that people in power, unfortunately, if they're not guided by some kind of sense of rightness, will do wrong. And thinking they're right, and it's almost I think this is not my thought. If somebody else mentioned it, and I thought it makes sense. These people that are doing that, they're insane. They're insane, and they're comfortable in their insanity. That's what's they don't think there's anything wrong with it, And it'll come back to a backlash. I don't know what's going to come in the future, but I certainly hope that people remember that a lot of people sacrificed themselves to be where we're at. And maybe they'll snap out of it.
This year, this is the first time I realized that we could lose everything, all our freedoms, and it makes you appreciate them more. So I want to use them while I have them.
I love reading history books, and the people back then, they didn't have anesthesia. They didn't have a lot of the things that the people who go to battle now, and yet they were willing to go and fight for, hey, this is not right. We're going to stand up and we're going to, make our cause here, and they did it. They did it against Washington and the troops. They ran for like 7 years. Most of it was running, in order to survive. But Washington had an objectivity, and was led by God, and he was awesome, and that to me is what independence is all about. First, to be independent from my mind, from my thoughts, words, all that intellect stuff, and because all good comes when you are objective. So ultimately, that's it. And then I remember once Roy he said something close to this. Life all comes down to having courage. And I wondered, what does he mean by that? Because Washington had that objective state, but he had the courage and the persistence to help create a nation.
It seems like we're supposed to have allegiance to God, our country, and our family, and kind of in that order. And it's very important that we have patriotism, and it's been eroded away over a period of time. And I remember when I have to go back to politics a little bit. Forgive me here. Before Reagan was in office, there was a falling away of patriotism in this country, and when Reagan came in, he restored that patriotism, and it seems like now it's being eroded away again. But like Chuck said, this country has always had problems, but during the 50s, it was a different world than it is today. And so many things, you remember your parents and your grandparents telling you about a world that they grew up in. And I remember that at Christmas time, people talk about a Christmas spirit. But I remember that Christmas spirit. When you would see people on the street, they would say hello to you and wish you a Merry Christmas. And they meant it. It was not just the words that they said. There was a feeling, there was a spirit there. That's gone today. So for a lot of people, I think. But anyway, I think what Bruce said is it that it's important that we get back to having the freedom that we once had.
Well, it is 4th of July. Again, at home, it's a week late, but it's funny to be talking about Christmas on the 4th of July. But I will tell you that as I grew up, I didn't have grandparents. They were all, on my father's side, they were both dead. And on my mother's side, I think her father was dead. I got to meet my grandmother one time when I was 13. So I had my dad and my mom. That's it. There was an Uncle Lou who I saw one time, 1968. I was 8 years old. So literally my whole life revolved around our nuclear family. And I remember, and I think all of you know how my dad talks about Christmas, about giving gifts to people, so on and so forth. And then if somebody gives you a gift, you feel obligated to give them something back. And because I didn't grow up with Christmas, like the regular Christmas that most people have, everybody exchanging gifts, I got to the point where I didn't want anything, but I did want to give things to people. And my dad always told me, if you want to give something to somebody, give it with no strings attached. Just give it on any day. Don't make it a special day. Otherwise, they feel like, oh, you gave me that because it's this day, and this is the day we exchange gifts. So I remember the importance of giving out of the blue when people least expect it. And there's a certain sweetness to that. And just when they're in need, maybe, or maybe not in need, or just you find something that you want to give to somebody because maybe it'll make their life better. And I've been free from the whole gift thing process that the whole world has, because I don't ever expect anything back. And there's a freedom to that. And if I can say on 4th of July, let freedom ring, if we can be free from the cultural crap that is downloaded into us and find out how to be clear thinking, self-motivating individuals with the freedom to speak up and say what's on our heart without anger, then that is, to me, that's freedom in this world. And to be free of the mind is the most important one of all, because the mind, how the mind can keep you well, right? That's the book. That's how it all started with my dad, how your mind can keep you well. The mind can be the prison. You can be trapped in a prison, or you can be free. And I loved playing Monopoly as a kid, and my get-out-of-jail-free card was a man named Roy Masters, who happened to be my dad. And he's the only guy I ever knew, because I didn't have grandparents to run to. My kids could run to my dad if I was being, angry or mean or whatever. Not that they ever really did, but there's nobody to run to, nowhere to run to. And truthfully, America, we've got nowhere to run to. This is it. So we better embrace this beautiful, beautiful country. And I hope that all of you guys saw the Trump rally. And I've seen pictures. A sea of humanity was there to support him. And thank God that Donald Trump is still there and a little bit of hope for us to be able to get out of this mess we are in. God bless America. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you learned a little something from it today. Thank you for supporting the foundation. We will be doing a seminar. I'm going to work on a seminar, the first one since I've been able to take over kind of the helm here. And we'll do it in late September or early October sometime. So please watch for that if anybody's interested in coming to a seminar at Tall Timber Ranch. We've been working on the ranch for quite some time. So thank you again. Make sure you get on our mailing list, which we do a weekly mailing list called Weekly Update. And then you can get this talk and the radio shows and all the different Roy Masters classic videos. We post a lot of good stuff there and some stories. Just call the foundation if you need to get on that. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great Independence Day weekend.
Put your hands together in prayer-like fashion. So you get your hands and put your fingers together, fingertip to fingertip, thumb to thumb, first finger to first finger. It's just like you're praying, but keep your hands all maybe an inch and a half, your palms of your hands an inch and a half apart. You got that? Keep it just apart, just a little bit like that, until you can just feel the heat, the warmth of your hands going from one palm to the other. Okay? Now, it might be a good idea if you closed your eyes, but it really isn't necessary this first time. I just want you to look at your hands, or close your eyes, either way. And now, what I want you to do is be aware of your hands and see if by being aware of your hands, that you can kind of make them warm. Then thoughts come into focus. Then you see the thoughts you have to deal with when your eyes are closed. When your eyes are open, you are looking at the screen, or you're looking at the radio, or whatever it is you're doing. Then it becomes your thoughts, unless you get caught up in a daydream. But I want you either close your eyes or leave your eyes open. But if you choose to close your eyes, it's better, so you can hear me fine. Okay, now close your eyes if you wish. That is the better way. But concentrate. Just give your attention to your fingers and your thumb. See how they're together? Thumb, finger, first finger, second finger together like that. And see if you can be, just by being aware of them. Don't let your mind wander off. If your mind wanders off, you're not going to be aware. Your fingers are not going to tingle with warmth. It's like a little game. I want you to see if you can make your hands warm. When you're nervous, your hands get cold, clammy. All right. And when you're in control and you're together, your hands are warm. All right. That's only because nothing is acting on you. You're only together because nothing is acting on you at the moment. Start to get scared or frightened and start to react, your hands get cold, right? Sign of stress. You're not dealing with things right. Right now, let's get in control of our own bodies so the stress doesn't make our hands cold or make us afraid. Warmth will do that. There's a secret in the warmth of your hands. Now, concentrate. Not hard. I just want you to be aware that your hands are together in front of you, with your eyes closed. Would you do that, please? Bring your attention to your thumbs. Now shift your attention to the first finger. Now shift your attention to the second finger. And now the third one. Just be aware. That's all I ask you to be aware. If your mind wanders off, whoops, something took your attention. Don't let it happen. Don't sweat it if it does. Just notice that it did happen. Just notice that it did. And then bring your mind back to thinking about your hands again, being aware of them. You don't even need to think of them if you can just notice that they're there and feel the warmth. Just notice the warmth or the tingling of your fingers. First finger, shift your attention to second finger, and see at the same time you can feel warmth passing between the palms of your hands. See, first finger, shift your attention to the second finger, that's it. And now the third finger. Go on. If your mind wanders off, Now, as though you're looking through the middle of your forehead, right there, with your eyes closed. That's you'd have to close your eyes for this one. As though you're looking through the middle of your forehead. Don't look upwards with the pupils of your eyes. Just notice that spot about, so halfway between the hairline, if you have hair, that is, and the eyebrows. Got it? Now, as though you're looking through the middle of your forehead, as though you can see little bright colors and like little atoms moving around inside your mind. There isn't that much thought when you do that. So you're just looking through your thoughts, and you're looking beyond your thoughts, and a flow of energy. You will feel warmth in those hands. And a lot of magical things are happening when you do that. I say it's magical because I haven't got time right this second to explain the physiology, the psychophysiology of it, the spiritual psychophysiology of it. But a lot of magical things are happening, and it's not suggestion either. One of the things that are happening is that what you know is right, you'll be able to do. And the second magical thing that's happening is that you'll find that you can see more clearly about people, but it won't upset you. You won't judge them. Simple. That's all I want to say. Just be aware of your hands as though you were looking through the middle of your forehead, and you're going to calm down. But not because Roy Masters says so. It isn't suggestion, you see. It is real. There's a difference between something suggested to you and something which is real. Now, concentrate on your hands. First finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. Just shift your attention as though you were looking through the middle of your forehead. Okay, keep doing it. The thumb, actually, start with the thumbs and first finger and second finger, and keep doing that. No matter what I say to you, it's all to help you keep your attention, help you. See if you can do it yourself. If your mind wanders off into some thought process, in some daydream. If he says that to me, I'll say that to him, and rehearsing some future encounter. Okay, just notice that's happened. Notice you're not aware of your hands. Feel the warmth of your hands. Just as long as you are being aware of your hands, as long as though you're looking through the middle of your forehead, as long as you just keep doing that like a cycle through the middle of your forehead, and you can almost see your hands sitting there. See if you can see an outline of your hands. Just be aware and shift your attention from one finger to another until you find yourself sitting there, noticing your hands and the thoughts going by you. See? You either see no thought, because looking at them kind of dissolves them. But only for a second or so, a split second, because they keep coming back and they keep trying to pull you in. And you keep looking at them. They'll tug on you. They'll keep pulling you in, but then you'll notice you're in, and then you're out. See? And you notice you're in, and then you're out. Keep doing it. I mean, it's fun. It's a simple thing, and you'll feel a little anxiety, perhaps, and then it slowly disappear. Now, be aware of your hands, and feel the warmth. You feel the warmth in your hands? And you're doing it right if you're feeling the warmth. Don't try too hard. Just notice your hands, and as you notice, the noticing itself produces that warmth. And what you're doing now is communicating from your mind to your body. Your soul is taking control of your thoughts, and also taking control of the way you feel and the way you react. And there's a sort of a flow from the innermost to the outermost limits of your being.